A parcel has arrived, and oh boy, wait till you see what I've got in here. What we have here is soup you can suck on. I am privileged to be in possession of a pack of Progresso soup drops. This is from the United States. I've had to import this. Not much to see on the outside of the box. This is a presentation box containing a can of soup, chicken noodle soup. Nothing particularly strange about that. Actually, that's a bigger can than we typically get here in the UK. That's a 538 gram can. The usual cans of soup in the UK are usually 440 or around 400. That's not the interesting part. This is Progresso soup drops. More soup you can suck on. This is soup flavoured sweets. Soup flavoured hard candy. It says, Progresso soup drops are back with more comfort you can suck on. Grab a chicken noodle, tomato, basil, or beef pot roast drop for whatever the suck occasion. Okay. And now each drop even warms up in your mouth, turning any moment from to ah. No spoon or heat required. Warm and cozy. Flavour based on delicious Progresso soups. Caution, edges are sharp when opened. Do not use if tab is lifted. Questions or comments, contact this number. Right, well, so yeah, this is actually it's a plastic container, but styled like a soup can, containing sweets that are soup flavoured in beef pot roast, chicken noodle and tomato and basil flavoured soup varieties. Savoury sweets, if that makes sense. I should say that this brand, Progresso, is not known to me. I don't think this brand has any presence here in the UK. So what I'm going to do first is taste the soup to get a kind of baseline for what, if there's any differences between this soup and the kind of soup that we have here. I don't suppose there will be. Let's have a look at the ingredients. So ingredients on the soup are chicken broth, cooked white chicken meat, carrots, egg noodles, which is semolina wheat, egg and egg white. Celery contains less than 2% of modified food starch, water, chicken fat, salt, flavour, potassium chloride, carrot puree, onion powder, sugar, soy protein isolate, tomato extract, sodium phosphate, garlic powder, parsley, asterisk, dried. Don't know why they didn't just put dried parsley, but whatever. Natural flavour, chives, also dried. Oh, okay, it's to save writing dried twice. Maltodextrin, spice, beta-carotene, colour. Contains egg, soy and wheat ingredients. Distributed by General Mills. So Progresso is a brand of General Mills. As I say, no presence in the UK that I know of. That ingredients list looks very similar to the sorts of things I would expect to find on a can of soup in this country. Let me just have a look and see if there's anything outstanding about, not by very much. So I'm not going to open these just yet because I think we need to taste the soup first. This can of soup, just to compare, that is a standard can of soup here in the UK. They don't look that much different like that, but, well, hopefully you can see there is a difference in size. Interestingly, this can of soup says it's 2 servings per container. So does this. The nutrition information says per half can. And somewhere I think it might say serves 2. But yeah, that's regarded by the manufacturers as 2 servings. I don't regard that as 2 servings. I would normally eat a whole can of soup for lunch with maybe a couple of slices of bread or toast. That's not a condensed version of a normal soup. That is the normal size for a non-condensed soup here in the UK. The Campbell's condensed soups are, I think, 295 grams, which is a smaller can than this. Anyway, let's get this open. Now, before we go anywhere else, the best before date is, can't read it because of the ridges, sometime in 2027. It is a pull tab can, and I'm going to use a can opener because I prefer to do that. And I think what I'll do is have the whole can out here. I'm not going to consume the whole of this can, but what I wanted to do was tip it out so we can have a look, but also to make sure that we weren't going to miss any of the ingredients by just pouring off the top half of the can. So I'm going to save about half of this soup for maybe tomorrow's lunch. So I'll try and make that a representative half. So I can see nice big chunks of chicken in there, whole slices of carrot. That looks like little pieces of sweet corn floating around. The little yellow specks look like they might be little pieces of sweet corn, or are they? Yeah, little drops of chicken fat maybe. That can go in the fridge for tomorrow or later. And I'm just going to warm that up. These pieces of pasta are bigger than I would expect to find in a chicken noodle soup in this country. It's normally thin noodles. I am going to taste a little bit of it cold because that's what I always do on this series. So I'm just going to taste the broth, I think. That's very nice chickeny flavour. I don't think you need to watch me warm that up in the pan. I'm pretty sure that will be a fairly uneventful operation. Okay, well, here we are. Oh, I meant to say, I found that in the box as well. I thought it was a postcard, but it's just a card. And it just says, more soup you can suck on. Chicken noodle with real flecks of parsley, tomato and basil-y. Beef pot roast, just like mum's. Warms in your mouth. Anyway, that's about the soup drops. This is about the soup. So yeah, those yellow dots in there were just bits of chicken fat, I think. Okay, the broth. That tastes homemade. That doesn't taste like soup from a tin. I didn't expect that. Okay, a piece of chicken. Yeah, chicken's a bit kind of nothingy, but doesn't have that canned meat flavour that you sometimes get. It doesn't taste like soup that came out of a tin. That's surprising. I believe it is true that this brand does position itself as a quality brand in the US market. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, that tastes like it hasn't been in a can. Yeah, you know how sometimes canned food tastes a bit like spam. It has that canned meat or canned protein aroma to it. This does not have that. A bit of the noodles now. Tinned noodles and pasta, always a little bit disappointing. But this is not too bad. I think it's because it's an egg noodle that it's kept some of its texture. It's still quite soft. And the carrot, I imagine this is going to melt in my mouth. Yes, I'm surprised they're still together, to be honest. They literally melt in your mouth. To accompany my soup, I've got some buttered, toasted, ancient grain muffin. And of course, that's a nice combination. Why wouldn't it be? But yeah, that is good soup. Quite different, I would say, from chicken noodle soup that I've had from maybe Heinz or any of the UK supermarket own brands. I think chicken noodle soup in the UK tends to have a little bit of an Asian influence to it. It maybe has a little bit of five spice in there, a bit of ginger, something like that. This is really just like a hearty chicken broth with carrots. A couple of questions for the Americans watching. Is that a normal size can? Or is that a larger than normal can? And also, what do you think of this soup? This seems like a decent soup to me. Better than, I would say, the average tinned soup that we get here. Is this what you would consider a good tinned soup? Do you even consider tinned soup to be good soup? Questions you could help me answer in the comments if you feel like doing that. Okay, I'm going to finish this soup. This is my lunch. And then we're going to open the soup drops. Okay, well, with the flavour of that chicken noodle soup still fresh in my mind, and with just a little palate cleanse, I think it's time to open the soup drops. So yeah, it's not a can. What is interesting is it says it's metal, but it's not. I wonder if this label is a reprint of the previous season's label. I think this might have originally been in a metal can, and they've just forgotten to change that bit. Anyway, this bit's metal. That's right, Apollo. Instructions here: lift ring and bend it back, and then pull up. Instructions for a pull tab can. And I am going to open it using the pull tab because I think my can opener would probably make a mess of that. And I'm going to have to get an implement because even though I do have fingernails these days, that's resisting. Yeah, can't handle that. Okay. Well, there we go. So those are soup drops. Are they labelled at all, or have we got to try and guess which is which? I mean, obviously that's going to be the tomato and basil, and then I'm assuming, yeah, there is a slight difference there, so I think that's got to be tomato and basil, beef, and then chicken. Yeah, the chicken one, it said it's got little specks of parsley in it. So that's that. Those are the three we're going to be tasting. Oh, I didn't do the ingredients, did I? So the ingredients are isomalt, natural flavours, salt, palm oil, parsley, tomato extract, and onion powder. And it doesn't say which of the... So these are the three sets of ingredients for the three varieties, but it doesn't say which are which. So the next one is isomalt, tomato extract, salt, natural flavours, palm oil, basil, citric acid, and vegetable juice for colour. And then the third one is isomalt, salt, natural flavours, beef broth, palm oil, potato, carrot powder, parsley, and onion powder. That must be the beef pot roast. Isomalt, I think, is that sugar-like thing used for making, often when you see decorative sugar art, I think, you know, in these bake-off type competitions, and they want to make a sugar dome, often they use isomalt. I think is it a sugar alcohol? It behaves a lot like sugar, but I don't think it's digested like sugar by the body. Anyway, manufactured on equipment used to process milk, almond, coconut, pecan or pecan, and soy protein. Contains a bioengineered food ingredient, but we're not going to tell you which one. Is isomalt bioengineered? Be nice if they told you which ingredient it was. Not suitable for children under 4. Okay, well, we can't put this off any longer. I'm going to try the chicken noodle one first because that's the soup I've just tasted. So this is the most apt comparison, I think. So there's the lozenge. And it does smell of soup. Well, here we go. It's quite a lot more salty, or seems to taste a lot more salty than the soup did. It's got a kind of toasted corn flavour to it for some reason. I don't know if that's a natural flavours. Yeah, it's got a really quite toasted flavour to it. I mean, it's chicken noodle, so I wonder if they put some grain or corn extract or something like that. It is deeply strange. And there is a slight sweetness to it. It is. I mean, honestly, it's a bit like if you bite a corner off a stock cube. And why wouldn't it be? But it's the same kind of things. Some of that toasted flavour might be coming from the onion powder, actually, if that's been heat dried. Okay, well, anyway, that's the chicken noodle one. Oh, they are slightly different shape, I think, as well. So the beef ones might be rounder. Right, well, I think I'm going to break here and resume in a minute when I finish this delicious chicken noodle soup lozenge, and we'll come back and taste the next flavour. Okay, so that was the chicken noodle soup. Again, a little palate cleanse, just to try to get us back to some baseline. Couple of things to say, actually. One, I didn't mention while I was tasting it because it only built as I was sucking on this. There is obviously some chilli in there, and that's what they're talking about. This soup warms you, warms in your mouth, which is a new feature apparently. So they've put a little bit of chilli in there, I think, and it does create a warming sensation in your mouth when you're consuming it. I don't think I would mistake that for hot soup. I think I would always just perceive that as a bit of capsaicin in there, but it was not unpleasant. The little specks of parsley and whatever else is in there tend to erode out as you're sucking on the sweet, and so there's this really weird rough texture. That's probably the strangest thing about it, is the texture rather than the flavour. The flavour, it occurred to me after I stopped recording. I've tasted this before. That toasty, savoury flavour is very reminiscent of Japanese rice crackers. You know, those bags of mixed rice crackers you can get, and some of them have got like a glaze on them, got a sticky soy and sugar glaze on them, and it tastes like that, including the slightly toasted flavour of the rice cracker as well. So yeah, if somebody had given me that and said, what flavour is this thing? And if I'd had the chance to think about it properly as I have done now, I might not have guessed chicken soup. I might have said Japanese rice crackers. Anyway, onward with tomato and basil. I thought we'd have this one because we got meaty, tomatoey, vegetable-y. So we'll go for the tomato one next. So again, lots of little specks in there, and some of this is going to be basil. Smells quite a bit sweeter, tastes quite a bit sweeter too, although there's still a savoury edge to it. And again, it's got that little bit of chilli building in the flavour. This one has a flavour that kind of tastes quite malty, so I don't know if that's in the natural flavours. Isomalt itself, although it's got malt in the name, is relatively flavourless, I believe. So yeah, fruity, not especially tomatoey. Not sure I would have identified tomato in that, although actually now I think about it, that sweet tomato jam that I brought back from Spain, that's the flavour I'm tasting here. So obviously when you have tomato and something sweet, that's where you end up. I think that's about all I've got to say on these tomato ones. Not as interesting, not as highly flavoured as the chicken noodle soup, but probably a bit less offensive to somebody who's approaching this and maybe has got a particularly sensitive palate. I have seen videos of people reviewing these things, and they either found them so desperately unpalatable they had to retch and spit them out, or they were making a show of that. I'm not sure on that one. It tastes like sweet, malty, fruity, slightly tomatoey. Can't really taste the basil, but then basil doesn't dry very well. Well, I think we'll come back in a moment for the beef pot roast flavour. All right, back again, another little palate cleanse, and third time's the charm. And this is the beef, I keep on having a look at that, pot roast. It's because the term pot roast is just not a thing here. I keep on want to say hot pot, and it's beef pot roast. Pot roast is just not a vocabulary term for me. There we go, beef pot roast. Oddly, different shape to the others. Presumably just a different production line or something like that. This one smells quite similar to the chicken noodle soup, but what does it taste like? Now, oh gosh, that is beefy, and I would say that's the most soupy of the lot. That one's definitely very savoury, very soupy. That one's kind of what I was expecting these to all be like, I think. I don't know if these are new flavour varieties, and maybe that's the original. This one really nails the whole soup drops vibe. Well, I've just got that inside of my mouth. Instructions here, ready to serve, open can, enjoy soup drop. And also, the container is made by a company in the UK by the look of it, braythorn.co.uk. There's some imprinting in the bottom of the container I can see. Okay, I'm going to finish this soup drop and then we'll come back and wrap up, I think. So that was soup drops. Now, what do I think of these? I didn't find them particularly challenging. I know some people have found them really revolting, and you know, that's just personal taste, I suppose. They were strange. It is a strange idea having a savoury drop that's like a sweet. Beef pot roast I think was the most interesting of the lot because it was really soupy. Tomato and basil I think is the weak player because tomatoes being a fruit, it was more like a just weird fruit drop than it was an actual soup drop. The thing I didn't really like about these is the texture. As you suck on them, the little inclusions, the little pieces of herbs and whatever else, erode out and become quite rough on the surface, and it's just not that pleasant in your mouth. I did take a picture of that, by the way, so if you're particularly sensitive to the idea of looking at something that I've been sucking on, close your eyes now. Here's the picture. Okay, it's safe to open your eyes again. So yeah, the surface texture of them is a little bit abrasive, which is probably the most unpleasant thing about them. This product, I think, is kind of like a marketing gimmick and a publicity gimmick. This is to get this brand in the news and get people talking about this brand. This product was actually released in very limited quantities, in batches, and sold out almost immediately, probably mostly to scalpers, which is who I bought it from. I had to pay a ridiculous amount of money to buy this and have it shipped from the United States, so I'm too embarrassed to tell you how much that cost me. Anyway, yeah, they talk about this as if it's a seasonal thing, and as if this is for cold and flu season, this if you've got a sore throat or something like that. These are meant to be a bit like cough drops. I don't think they would function as well as a typical cough drop because usually those have got a bit of menthol or something in them that's got notionally some kind of medical benefit. These, I think, are just a seasonal novelty to get this brand some attention. And I don't mind that. I mean, it's more interesting as an advertising gimmick than a lot of other things that other companies do. So I won't fault them for that. The soup itself, the chicken noodle soup itself, I'm very impressed with. I actually really quite enjoyed that. And like I say, it's a bit nicer, I think, than most tin soups I've tried. Soup drops, you know, I can't imagine deliberately trying one of these for the sake of enjoying it, but an interesting little conversation starter if we have guests or friends round and I'm flying out to Spain in a few weeks with my sister, and she always sucks on a boiled sweet when we take off or land to help her ears from going pop. So I might take a couple of these and just maybe won't tell her it's beef pot roast. That was Weird Stuff in a Can on Atomic Shrimp Soup Drops. I hope that's been interesting. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.